There's been no crypto disaster more entertainingly sad than FTX collapse. More specifically, Sam Bankman-Fried, the face of FTX. Since the collapse and the absolute ruin of billions of dollars worth of assets, it has just been this nonstop roller coaster of lunacy. Sam Bankman-Fried, as I've said multiple times now across multiple videos, is not some innocently stupid kid. He is a con man, a scam artist, and a fraud. Regardless of how the mainstream media writes about him, this is not some like innocent, unavoidable natural disaster that happened to FTX. Like, this was the result of a scam collapsing. And for some reason, mainstream journalists still keep putting his whole nutsack in their mouth and suckling the goddamn juice out of it. They keep saying that some people called him a fraud, but overall what really happened was a loss of confidence or just a couple of mistakes since he's still young and really just wanted to do a good thing for the world, but unfortunately his empire collapsed. This is a fraud. We are talking about a fraud who should not be doing thousands of interviews every fucking week. He should be in jail. Now that I've got that out of the way, we're talking about Sam Bankman-Fried again today. Because CoffeeZilla is like the last journalist who is actually putting work into investigating Sam Bankman-Fried and finally trying to pin him down on all of these awful things he's done. CoffeeZilla is a goddamn hero. More than that, he's a fucking patriot. So please, if you haven't already, check out his channel. Of course, the link's going to be in the description. He recently conducted another interview with Sam Bankman-Fried a couple days ago, and this time around had a very effective strategy to come after Sam Bankman-Fried on some of the shit that happened, and was able to even get him to admit to something very horrible. So I think overall, this is a great step in the right direction to hopefully getting Sam Bankman-Fried some investigation from authorities at the very least. Like a thorough deep dive. I want to watch the CoffeeZilla interview here, where he gets SBF to admit to fraud.
Sam at no point has wanted to talk to me. Every time I've kind of snuck on these Q&As and started peppering
I just cannot believe Sam continues to get these Q&As and continue to interact directly with human beings. Like, one of the biggest frauds of all time, and he is still perfectly content to try and pretend that he's not and just talk to people. Just constantly talking to people about it. Being super open. It's wild. I mean, I guess I'm glad that he's that open about it, because maybe that'll eventually lead to charges against him, since for some reason they don't want to pursue charges against him, even though it was billions of dollars worth of fraud. So maybe as he continues to put his own ass in his face, maybe then they'll be motivated enough to go after him, but it blows my mind that he continues to do this. Sam Bankman-Fried, that is.
What the perfect line of questioning would be to really pin Sam down.
Ask him why he's hard stuck bronze in league.
Dodging questions. And here was my plan to do it. I was going to spend the entire time laser focused on the FTX terms of service. Now, some of you may know FTX lays out that
interesting
they cannot
strategy.
use customer funds for anything. They can't trade with them. They can't loan them out. And I thought this was a really important point because obviously that money is no longer there. So clearly something must have happened
to FTX trading. So how is it possible that Alameda had this loan of
God, he just looks like such a villain.
So it would cover all of those, all those shorts, all those liabilities. Obviously, that wasn't the case here, and that's a massive failure of oversight of risk management, and of.
It's such a fucking frustrating defense to listen to. So instead of admitting to fraud, because obviously he's not dumb enough to just blatantly admit to fraud, until now, I guess, with the CoffeeZilla interview, instead of admitting to anything, he blames it all on, I'm just a fucking imbecile. Like, I am actually the dumbest man of all time. This was a failure on every level because I'm so fucking stupid. How quirky with my dumb, smooth brain. Haha, how dumb. I'm just so dumb. I can't believe we did this. We were so stupid and short-sighted to do this. His defense is, I am just a fucking moron. That is his whole defense. I'm not a criminal, I'm not a fraud, I'm just the dumbest man on this entire planet. It's so frustrating.
Responsibility from myself running FTX.
Because he is stupid. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna call this man smart. He is, like, like observably dumb, but he is also a con man. He is a fraud. He knowingly committed crimes. Like, that's not some accidental thing that was a byproduct of being a fucking actual buffoon. It's because he is a con man criminal.
There are a lot of cases where that's actually explicitly part of the programs and that are
But
happening.
not
and
here.
people are
Here it
opting.
says that the digital assets may not be loaned to FTX trading. They can't be loaned out.
Jesus. Just listening to the way he conducts himself, holy fuck, it is so grating. There is no man that is more, like, annoying than Sam Bankman-Fried. Oh my lord. And this is nothing compared to that video they made about him calling them the world's most generous billionaire. He repeats it to himself like he's a child in class trying to struggle to read something out loud. Ugh. Oh, did I write that? No, that couldn't have been there. You can't loan to FTX. No. Oh, just another failure. Man, we're so goofy. Like, we're so stupid. I can't believe we did. We wrote that? Oh my god. Well, it wasn't on purpose. We're just dumb. You can't throw me in jail for being dumb.
There
like he's on Who Wants to Be a
existed
Millionaire.
borrow lending facility on FTX.
Proved of it.
Now, this is great stuff from Stephanopoulos. He refocused the question, but Sam's about to weasel out with a new trick. Go ahead and watch.
If
Crying.
you rewind
He cries.
to the beginning of
Imagine.
FTX, where in order to trade on FTX,
So you do know, and you did know, that FTX deposits were being funneled to Alameda.
so I was vaguely aware that that was how some wires were being sent in the first place.
Didn't that set off alarm bells in your head?
Oh, don't give him a way out. This is throwing him a softball at the end. He was doing a great job, but yeah, I definitely see how SBF gets his way out of this one. He squeaks it out, little stinker. I was too busy playing League of Legends, and I was only vaguely aware of, like, crimes or something related to illegal activity or the violation of our own terms. Like, I was just, you know how much I play League, right? Because I am Bronze 3, and I just must have been so distracted or on tilt that day. Oh my god, I should have paid more attention. I'm so silly. I can't believe I've done this.
So there are a lot of people who are involved in that process. And look, I really deeply wish that I had taken like a lot more responsibility for understanding what the details were of what was going on there.
This is how he
Jesus.
slips out again.
Yep.
He tried the margin trading explanation. It didn't work. So he pivots to, okay, well, there's this weird backstory where FTX used to take wires from Alameda. And maybe that's where we lost the money, right? It's another smokescreen.
Wire transfer sent directly to Alameda.
Yeah, I kind of got stuck where Stephanopoulos roughly got stuck. I should have known that he was just going to refuse the evidence of insiders and just say, well, I disagree, and go back to his Alameda wire
Yeah, that's fair.
explanation. And I tried following it up.
To be fair, though, I think CoffeeZilla's angle there was a smart one to play, but you're going up against a guy who's trying to be like I don't know, still trying to maintain that altruism almost, where he's like, I'm so open and honest, like everything collapsed, everything failed, but it's because of some shortcomings that I did out of, a misunderstanding and a couple of mistakes along the way. I'm still young, I'm still learning, still time to grow, and then busting out an interpretive dance apology. So it's just like a really hard position to argue against. To further explain just a bit there, CoffeeZilla had a previous interview with him where he brought up some insider information to try and really like dig the knife in and put the fangs into SBF, but instead he just refuted everything, saying like, well, I don't have all the specifics in front of me, but from what I remember, and then going down like this different path to kind of placate. So CoffeeZilla was acknowledging that he got stuck in a similar position to the other interviewers. I'm gonna tell you right now, this is not gonna be the final call. Sam Bankman-Fried's gonna go on another goddamn Twitter live stream with strangers yet again, and CoffeeZilla can just get in there and interview him again if he wants. Like, for some reason, this fucking guy is so addicted to doing interviews about his like scam. It blows my mind. It actually blows my mind.
Yes or no, were you treating client assets just on the regular digital asset side different from the margin trading side?
I do think we were treating them differently. There were a bunch of different sides. There were more than two sides there.
if it's true that you didn't invest client assets, not even in treasuries, as you said via a now deleted tweet, why do those client assets no longer exist?
So
Repeat the question. I'm in a mid lane
I'm trying
battle
to
right
trace
now.
through some of this. Here's my best guess, and I wish I could give you a more confident answer, but I don't have the data. But my best guess is basically it's a combination of the following. One piece is the transfer sent directly to Alameda Research.
I'm trying just to show you the cliff notes where CoffeeZilla hammers in some very important points and Sam Bankman-Fried flounders quite a bit. You'll notice like his response to pretty much anything is, like he sounds like Banjo-Kazooie dialogue where they just make like a bunch of noises like, "Eagle." Like that's Sam Bankman-Fried responding to a fucking question. So then he'll end up like when he's finally trying to somewhat like tap dance around the question, he'll come in and say like, I don't have everything in front of me, but I guess if I had to, wager some kind of speculation, as if he doesn't own the fucking company. Like he apparently doesn't know anything that ever happened at the company. Like he's just that disconnected from it, I guess. Like it's so weird and it's so hard to listen to. So when CoffeeZilla is asking him direct questions, Sam circularly comes around to it kind of in an answer that doesn't actually shed light on anything at all. Like he doesn't give real information.
One piece, and that I think is a fairly substantial piece. One piece is.
Wait, can you explain what that piece means? So people were sending money to Alameda instead of, they were getting credited on FTX, and Alameda just ended up using those funds, and they were never held separately per the terms of service.
Well, there was a separate legal agreement with that. I don't know the details of it. I don't have it in front of me, but
God, it's every question you ask him. It's like, well, I'm actually really not sure what you're talking about, but if I had to guess, like as if you didn't own the company, like you didn't make the company. Like it's like asking your dad, who only like read the headlines about FTX, these questions. Like that's his responses. I don't actually know where this could have gone. If I had to, spitball and, give you a ballpark, it probably went into Kmart stock. Like, Jesus Christ. I highly recommend watching CoffeeZilla's whole interview because it's a really great one, but since I'm just trying to break it down into the bare bones here, his strategy was pretty simple. Using the terms of service, they made it clear that there was different levels to what you could do with FTX. So if you're someone that doesn't want a lot of risk associated with this, you could just put your money in there and you'd have one-to-one assets per their terms of service. It'd be treated differently than the people that want to put their money in and go hog wild, so they accept some level of risk doing all kinds of other stuff. And these were very separate, at least the terms said that they would be treated separately. However, the people that just put their money in there and just wanted to stay there, have one-to-one assets, just have everything just be there, no risk associated with it, somehow their money's not there anymore. Well, how does that make any sense? If FTX isn't allowed to like trade that, put it other places, and they just had that money as like the one-to-one thing, no risk associated with it, how the fuck could their assets no longer be there? They would have had to break their own terms. There needs to be an explanation for why that money is no longer there for those people.
And part of the answer is, well, there still do exist some number of billions of dollars of assets, of hard assets in the.
No, is there one-to-one assets? Because that's the whole thing. We're talking about a separation of funds. So those funds should be a completely different, in a different place, in a different wallet than everybody else. What you talked about servicing billions of dollars of withdrawals has nothing to do with those
literally
digital
nothing.
Assets, because that's just first come, first serve, whoever pulled out first. We're talking about people who never agreed to have their funds loaned out, who never agreed to have their funds put on margin. They should have, according to your terms of service, one-to-one backing. It should all still be in some bucket somewhere. And are you confident today, as the CEO of FTX, this has nothing to do with Alameda, are you confident today to say that those are absolutely real and they exist and they're present, people are backed one-to-one on client digital assets?
His response is going to be, well, what terms of service? I don't really know what that means, but if I had to wager a foggy stab in the dark, for those that don't understand the line of questioning CoffeeZilla is going for, he's focusing in on like a really core component to this, where there's people like, back to this, like your dad heard about FTX. He saw that Super Bowl commercial with Larry David. He's like, yeah, I think I'm out. Don't be like Larry. Put your money in FTX. It's a great, safe, wonderful thing. So he just puts his money in there. He doesn't agree to do any like margins. He doesn't agree to anything else. He just wants his money in there. And according to FTX, that money would always be there, 1-to-1. It wouldn't go to anywhere else. It wouldn't go to Alameda. It wouldn't go anywhere. You would have it. It would just be there. But that's not the case. Clearly, that ended up not being the case. They know. It appears all of that is gone.
So I think, and again, I'm just taking a stab here, but I think
almost verbatim what I just said. He would say
is that if you wanted to put it this way, like fungibility created during those withdrawals between assets for people who had and had not been using.
But that means that there is no separation of funds. If there's fungibility between two different buckets of credit, there are no buckets. It's just one bucket product. So you subjected everyone to the higher risk product because fundamentally, when it came down to it, you're saying there's fungibility. It's $1 here, $1 there. Everyone can take out $1 as fast as they want. Don't you see that as like defrauding your customers, the people who trusted you to just say, hey, this is not going to go anywhere except for we're not investing your assets?
This was really kind of the first time the cracks in SBF's armor started to show here. CoffeeZilla was really like cutting deep into the meat here and finally getting some very honest, awful answers from SBF about like the situation where he is like basically admitting to fraud, like almost just point blank.
And during that period, I think we may have allowed, just generalized withdrawals. I think that was, if you're saying...
Do you not realize what you're saying right now?
Withdrawals for everyone who had an open futures position, for clawback potential or something like that. I felt, at the time that, we wanted to treat customers equally. It was an incredible...
But they had agreed to different things, so you can't treat them equally.
Yeah, that's like he's trying. Oh my god, he's trying to take this angle like everyone's equal here, but like you have different areas of investment, like the risky assets. I put in for these terms, it's risky. I get that. I accept that risk. But then you have the people like CoffeeZilla is focusing on. I don't want to do the risky shit. I just want this 1-to-1. I want it to sit there. I just want it to be 1-to-1, nothing else. And SBF is just admitting, well, actually, I mean, everyone played by the same rules. Like, they didn't make a distinction. There's no separation. Thus, fraud. Fucking fraud. It's just that simple.
I mean, it's like, this is the whole problem of the story of FTX and Alameda, is all the funds were being commingled. Isn't this just another story of commingling funds, except this is now FTX, which you can't pass the blame to Alameda anymore. This is your company.
So I just want to respond to that. And please, I completely respect your question, but you have monopolized all of these discussions, CoffeeZilla. You need to let others speak, and you need to respond to what I'm saying and not grandstand as much here. I completely understand where you're coming from. But to answer your question, I didn't make a decision there. I just processed withdrawals as we normally do until it became clear we couldn't anymore, at which point we shut them off.
It's about treating your client assets the way you told them they'd be treated, right? It's a very different thing.
It's super simple.
Completely. But anyways, I'll stop grandstanding for Sam. Thanks, guys. Oh my gosh.
I legitimately, truly believe SBF doesn't even realize what kind of conversation he just had. I actually think he has no clue what he was even talking about, like, or the ramifications of what he was saying.
For a straight answer on the problem of funds.
With
right?
1,000
Sam
surrounding
says
it.
That FTX was not separating funds. They were allowing generalized withdrawals. The dollars were fungible from different buckets. You can't do that.
Fucking amazing job. That's so fucking good. Sam Bankman-Fried, though, is legitimately grating to try and listen to. God, it's so frustrating. Yeah, like he's not even close to getting like arrested, going to trial or anything. For some reason, so many outlets are still sucking his dick. It makes no sense. No sense at all. It is so backwards. So backwards. Donated millions to both political parties. He's untouchable. I guess, man. I didn't believe that at first. I didn't think that would give him immunity, but holy shit. It's just such a blatant case of fraud, and everybody knows it. Yet Wall Street Journal is still printing things like, the most generous billionaire was about to save the world. Till his company collapsed unjustly, you swine. The world could have been saved if only we had let Sam Bankman-Fried continue to scam. Look into his background. No, I know his parents are compliance lawyers. Like, he was actually just born rich. He had a great spawn. In his own world's most generous billionaire fluff piece, he said, the way I originally made money is I bought Bitcoin on a US exchange for 10K, and I sold it on a Japanese exchange for 11K. So I put $10 million into Bitcoin on American exchange, and then just swapped it in the Japanese exchange. Like, he just had millions upon millions. But even still, he couldn't even come up with something almost remotely relatable to like an average layman. Oh, you see, if you start with $10 million, you can actually make quite a lot of money with just a measly 10 million lying around. I mean, anyone can do this. Shit is so insufferable. Like, how do you get away with this? Because the only people affected were, like, normal people. Like, I read an article the other day. Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, the guy who talks about people not being rich, or what the fuck was his quote? I even just mentioned it, like, yesterday. There's something like the top 0.1% have more money than the bottom 88% who live in poverty, and Kevin O'Leary was like, that's wonderful news or some shit like that. Fantastic news. Well, it came out that he was actually paid $15 million in order to shill FTX. So everything that he keeps saying about how amazing SBF is, like everything about, like, you know, SBF may have had this entire empire collapse, but I'd invest in him all over again. All of it is just paid for. That some have called fraudulent. Wow, these articles. Yeah, I know. Like, this is CNBC, by the way. The crypto exchange that some have called fraudulent. Like, it's so blatant. It's crazy. It's crazy. Actual nuttiness. It's all an attempt by big money to scare the public away from the blockchain. It's a scam. This was a scam. SBF is a fraud, and for some reason, the media, like major outlets, are refusing to acknowledge that this is a scam and the guy should be in jail. If anything, it's the opposite. They're trying to come up with every possible excuse ever for why FTX collapsing is some kind of fluke that no one could have prevented.